You're listening to a Broken Dial exclusive interview.
I just want to thank you a lot personally for myself and for the site, because it's a pretty big opportunity. A lot of the other bands that we've interviewed and the writers that work with us have always cited Jeff as one of our favorite of all time. So really, I want to thank you for the time.
Thank you so much.
No, not a problem.
I appreciate knowing that.
It's very interesting because when I first got into him, I didn't get into Jeff until after his passing, ironically. And a 16-year-old kid that I worked with in a record store handed me the CD and said, "This changed my life," which I laughed at the time. But
yes, I bet you did.
Yeah. So it's like, but it has to mean a lot to know that someone that was so dear to you has touched so many people, especially since he's been gone now 10 years.
Yes. Well, actually, one of the biggest reasons for standing firm with the notion that the real way to market Jeff 10 years ago, if we're talking about, the initial raw conferences and the ideas that were going back and forth, was the inclination, the knee-jerk reaction for the record label was to make hay while the sun was shining, pardon the terrible expression, which was a build of momentum on the press that Jeff was getting after the accident. And I just felt really, really wrong about that. From a karmic viewpoint, from a personal viewpoint, from a Jeffness viewpoint, it just didn't seem the right way to go. And I begged with them to just bear with me and take a long time to do this. And I think the fact that it's been from music lover to music lover that this legacy has been built, that it has been built on people on the internet, and as much as I struggle against the abuse of copyrights, the fact that the kids on the internet were the ones who were saying, "Oh, no, you must hear about this individual, and I will swap tapes with you, or I'll send you an MP3, or I'll even throw up an FTP site here on my college campus so that people can hear this," because we know that the mainstream radio programs and the marketing streams just don't carry someone like Jeff along the way they should on someone's shoulders,
Right. It's very weird because looking at the model you're mentioning there, he's like the bridge between old tape trading, stuff that like Fish and the Grateful Dead were big on, but he also bridges a lot of the gaps to the new blog and hype machine mentality, which is if you share something that's not exclusive, it might open the audience up to stuff that they have to look a little harder for or spend a little money to get on. It's an interesting bridge. He's an interesting artist that way because it was never an intention. It just kind of ended up being that way.
Because of the moment,
Right.
at that emerging moment when nobody had really identified the suits on Madison Avenue, hadn't quite been able to put their finger on how to do something with this entity, and so it became very much a grassroots thing, and it kind of a wild and crazy time too. Because as the curator of his legacy, I didn't know which way the wind would blow. I knew I had to stand for something, and it was going to be for artist rights, but I also didn't, you notice I didn't take anybody to court. I didn't actually go after anybody. I sent motherly letters to them saying, you shouldn't be doing this because, and if you just give me time, I'll see that you get everything that you should get. Please do not despair. You really don't have to worry about, Jeff's memory fading forever if you don't start giving away everything that I actually have a better copy of here in my garage.
Yeah.
So if you'll just, give me a chance, I'll see, as long as I'm breathing on this planet, I will be trying to make sure that the folks who own the masters, who really do own the legal rights to this, not I, will do the right thing by you and also by Jeff's sense of dignity and our, sense of propriety, and which is kind of crooked because Jeff was not about propriety himself.
He was all about the art.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. He was.
Now, as a person, not a lot of people get a glimpse at Jeff personally. How were you very, very close with him? I know that I share, personally, a special relationship with my mom. She's been down for the last couple of days because of my surgery. Were you very, very close with him?
We had to be because, I was a single mom from the time he was very young, and he had a younger brother. So, with 5.5 years difference. So I don't know, you have an older brother? Are you an older brother?
I am the 5.5-year older brother, yeah.
Okay, dude, you had to take care of him.
Yep.
Even if your mom didn't work. 8 hours a day and then come home and have to try and do, it became your job to kind of look after that kid, and your time wasn't really your own.
Right.
And for Jeff, being the tender-hearted soul that he was, he totally got it right away from the time he was a young kid, that, that was his place in the family, was to kind of help Mom out and be as much of a helpmate as he could. And because he was so responsible, I gave him a lot of freedom. So when he wanted to have the garage band in his garage, and it meant I couldn't park my car in there anymore, I said, "Sure, hon, you go right ahead," because I knew where to find him. And his little brother was sitting on top of the boxes, bopping away to the music too. I knew where to find both the boys.
What kind of stuff did he listen to when he was a kid and play?
Well, now I know we have some really ancient 8mm film of his band when he was 15, playing at one of those places that allow underage kids.
Right. And
they were playing Rush and Styx and Police for their big numbers.
Oh, wow. Was he singing then too, or was he just playing?
Oh no, singing. That's before he stopped singing. He sang for a while, and then he got, when he went to go pro, he made this big, like at 19,
yeah.
He decided, he wasn't going to sing. but no, we have a video of him. I mean, it's the drummer's dad or the bass player's dad with a camera on his shoulder at the back of the room. But it's in black and white. But we have Jeff singing Roxanne.
Wow.
At 15.
And what's
it is so amazing.
Full circle, the Police now being back out on tour, and they're pushing that compilation.
Isn't that interesting? And he swore off Sting when he broke up the band.
Yeah.
Oh yes. And how old was Jeff when the band broke up? He never would let anybody mention Sting's name in his presence.
Oh, that's too well. It's not like Sting put out that great work after the fact.
But the day I heard that they got back together, I said, "Oh, Jeff must be smiling in heaven."
Yes. Now, as far as his relationship with his dad, he had no contact until he was in his early teens, correct?
He had one meeting with him when he was 9 years old.
Right.
And there were a couple of meetings when he was when he was a toddler, when there was a moment in time when before Tim went off and did whatever he did. I mean, there was a moment in time when I had a relationship with his mom, and I used to bring Jeff over and drop him off at his mom's and go to be able to take a Sunday afternoon off and go to a movie, because being a teenager with a little baby was not easy. And my mom lived all the way in Orange County. I was living in Los Angeles, and I would go to Venice, drop Jeff off at Elaine's house, which was just a few blocks away from where Tim lived, and she would call Tim, and Tim would come and get the kid and take him, to his place for a couple of hours, and then drop him back off at Grandma's house. And when I was done, I would come and pick him up from Elaine's, sometimes knowing that Tim had taken him for a few hours, and sometimes not. And Jeff used to tell me that he had memories of riding on someone's shoulders, where the ocean and feeling so tall because he was riding high up on someone's shoulders. And I know that was his memories of being on Tim's shoulders. But Tim, for some reason, decided that he was better off, that Jeff was better off without him in his life, and just did not do anything. He moved away one time, and the guy that moved into his house was his guitar player. And when I went back to see him to say, "Hey, you want to see the baby? I mean, what's going on?" He said, "You know what? Tim's moved. You should move on too." And
wow.
That was that, And I thought, okay.